So last week we had the big tournament with the North American Open. This week I come back to Salt Lake City to play in one of my local tournaments, which is a quick tournament, which is 15 minutes by 5-second increment. This is how I did. So my first game here, I start off as white against an opponent that's about 300. So I went into this thinking that it was going to be a very easy battle. And so I start off with e4, goes e5, and we go into an Italian structure of a game. So I like to play the pianissimo. I draw my bishop back. He brings that here. I bring my pawn out to stop any bishop shenanigans here. He brings his pawn there. I just develop my knight as I'm looking to get it over here to this f5 square. And then he brings this bishop here, which is a very passive bishop. I castle. He brings the queen out. And I just develop my pieces as much as possible. And he brings the bishop out, but I don't want to trade it. This bishop's a very powerful bishop here in the middle game. And so he drops this bishop back, and that's when I knew it was basically time to pounce. So I'm able to fork these two pieces instead of the pawn take here, which he should have done in the first place. And then he goes to attack my bishop again, which I'm not scared of. I'll just take his bishop. He takes back with the pawn, and I just drop the bishop back. So he's got a misplaced knight. He has a bishop that's pretty far back. He brings the knight back here, and I just push forward here. No big deal. He brings this rook here looking to push this pawn forward, and I just thrust this pawn forward. He then drops this knight back thinking I'm going to come and attack the knight, but really I'm coming after the bishop. The bishop's trapped, so he sacks for the pawn there. He goes to break up the pawn structure here, and I come over here looking to fork the pieces right here. That's what my main thing is. What I should have done instead is I should have gone king g1, because if I go with this move here, he has the check here and it drops the pawn. I'm not able to take back because of the move here. And then after moving the king to g1 here, all that black can do now is they can come here. Now they're covering this square as well. Things looked pretty decent for black in that situation. It wasn't obviously winning, but I wasn't comfortable with that. So once I did this, he moved up to b5. And then I got my king out of the way, realizing the danger that I was in. And now the knight comes back here. I then fork the queen and the rook. Queen goes to f7. I then take the rook. He brings that out. And now there's a nice little back here, which is something that, you know, I didn't take lightly. I'm still easily winning, but I didn't want to lose. He brings the knight back, and I just get my pieces into the game. I make this bishop better, pinning this pawn to the queen here so I can get this knight forward into the center. He brings that pawn forward, and then I thrust forward, looking to hit this pawn here. He pushes the pawn forward. I have to take here. He takes back, and then I can get this knight here. I'm looking to hit this pawn there. And so he brings the queen there, and then take here. What I should have done instead was, instead of going knight takes b5, it would be queen to d3 here, basically hitting both the knight and the pawn. So that would have been better, but I missed that in the moment. I was pretty high up, so it wasn't that big of a deal. So after taking, he takes the pawn. I push forward, thinking I'm going to get this rook over here and harass the queen. He brings the knight forward, and I go and attack this knight. He brings that forward. I take with the knight, because after he takes back, I have the check here. The king's in danger, and now I'm taking here. I'm looking to take here, but really I want to trade of queens at this point in the game because I'm very much winning. And so he obviously does not want to take that. He takes with the pawn instead. I take with the rook, and that's the game. So I easily win my first game, and I'm looking forward to how the rest of this tournament is going to turn out. So in my second game here, I played with the black pieces, and he started off with e3, which is Van Krugis's opening. I don't know what to do at this point, so I just brought out the knight here. Just played standard chess, trying to like develop my pieces, take control of the center. That was kind of my whole game plan going into this after I saw this opening. Get the bishop out. I trade that off, and now I'm in like a Caro-Kann-like structure is the kind of what I was going for here. So I like this pawn structure with the 3 pawns in the center. He goes for the check here. I just develop, and I lose the pawn right away, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a big deal, because all I could do is I'm just going to develop. This is all held together by my pieces. He brings the queen back, and I castle, and I'm just have a huge lead on development, I feel like, at this point. So he gets queen to e2, and I forward trying to attack the pawn center. Just chop at the center there. He takes back, and I just develop my knight. He brings the pawn out there to any of this, and I bring the queen out, looking to maybe throw a check here later on if the knight goes there. He brings that there, check, and then I get this little fork. He moves the king instead of, you know, blocking with the king, unfortunately. So what I do at this point is I go rook f to c8, which is a mistake. What I should have done instead was I should have gone queen to b2 here, attacking the knight. And then after the knight comes over here to b5, then you go rook to c8, targeting this pawn. That's what you should have done. I'm gonna be able to take here and hit this king, and it's not gonna be pretty for the white pieces. After going rook f to c8, he brings the knight out, attacking the queen. I just drop the queen back. He goes to my queen, And I then say, cool, let's trade off the queens. I'm gonna take this pawn. He brings this back, so I take the queen anyways, this check. And he takes back with the knight. And then pushing to a6 was an inaccuracy, but what I should have done instead was I should have gone a5. So he comes back to knight to c3 here. It's just defended by this knight. I go rook to c6 looking to double up. That's an inaccuracy as well. He then comes here looking to trade off this knight. And I say, nah, I don't want to do that. What I should have done instead was I should have gone knight takes c4 here. And then after this, you go rook to c4 and you're forking both these pawns and there's no way that he's able to stop it. So that's what I should have done. But I pulled back, he goes here, and I still have this nice little pawn fork here, and I'm able to pick up this pawn while attacking the knight. Knight comes here, and I take this pawn, knowing that if he takes here, I can just take back with his knight, and I'm doing fine. So after he takes back, we're good. King comes out to play. I bring the knight out, he comes there, and I bring this rook here to be supported by this pawn, looking to double up. Knight to b2, I go to attack the knight. The rook comes out, and then I throw this check in where I'm able to take the knights off the board. I have a pawn advantage. I'm looking to just convert this. So he goes rook h to c1. We trade this off, and I'm looking to get my king in the game at this point. So he starts pushing pawns forward, and he brings the king out here, which I'm looking now to come here and take this pawn later on. And he goes here. I then push back. He comes back with this king, and then I'm looking to trade off this rook because I'm thinking that I have the advantage in this. If they take, I'm winning. There's no way that he'll be able to really like stop this pawn attack since I have the pawn majority on the king side. He just doesn't want to obviously trade. I bring the king over, stopping any like shenanigans from this rook coming over here. He's not able to come on my board. And then he makes a mistake by going here and dropping the pawn and throwing the king in the check. And I'm like, hey, let's trade. I'm down to trade and lose a pawn. I think that's advantageous for me. He says no. And I just bring my king in. Just slowly bringing my king in. I'm not too worried about it. I'm looking to trade off once again. Throw a check on the king. Now I'm looking to just kind of like mess up the pawn structure here, get the rook over and be winning. He says no to that. And so I just take here and push forward, thinking that, oh, you'll take here. I'll take with the rook and we're easily winning. He pushes forward. So I just bring my rook over here. I'm really kind of just preventing this king from moving into the side of the board. And I'm gonna push my pawn up and I just move my king to safety to here. And then he makes the mistake of going rook to e3 here, which is all but over for him because now I'm the rook to the king and that ends the game. So I'm starting off this tournament 2-0 and I'm feeling really good about my chances of winning this tournament. Luckily for me, I've had some good pairings where I've had weak opponents, so that puts me in a position to win. Unfortunately for me, my next opponent was the 2100 that I beat a few months ago, and it's our first rematch since that game, and this is how it went. I go e4, and I go into an Italian setup game, and he just goes into the two knights defense, obviously playing just the pianissimo. And whenever I play the Italian and someone goes bishop to e7 here, that's when I know somebody knows their stuff because that's the theory move for black. He puts the pawn over here to d6, I bring the bishop back, and then he goes knight to a5 here attacking the bishop. I just bring it back, and then he starts trying to take space on the king side. I develop my knight, he brings the knight back, I castle, he castles, bring to the center, h6, knight f1, trying to get there, and then he pushes up here to b5, looking to take up even more on the queen side, and I push up here to a3. What I should have done instead is I should have just gone bishop to b3 here, bringing this back out, eyeing this, stopping any advances here. He throws here, you just throw here, and you kind of stop the attack. But I didn't do that. After a3, he goes a5, and I thrust up over here before, completely just dropping my rook. And so I don't obviously take back. I bring the knight out here. What I should have done instead was take c b4 here, because now he's taken back, and now he's taking up a lot of critical squares deep in my territory with an undefended pawn that I'm not able to break into. So I put a4, and now he solidifies that pawn even stronger, and I'm freaking out a little bit because things aren't looking good. I'm down 5 on the engine, trying to get my knight into the game. But there's nowhere for my pieces to really go. Basically, he's pinned me. He's now opened up the king side. The knights are coming in. The bishop's coming in. I go to attack. He brings this over. I bring the rook here, looking to hit this. And he takes with the knight here. And I throw in what I thought was a great move, g6 here, looking to see if he can maybe make a blunder at the last second. Unfortunately, he doesn't because he just takes a hit there, which gets the discovered attack here. I was hoping you to take with the queen or something like that, because you're looking at some sort of checkmate pattern coming up. Didn't happen. So the king is checked. He comes here, and then I take the knight, which, you know, I'm able to take this bishop too. So I take the bishop. He takes with the queen, and I just bring this queen into the middle, one defending this. I drop the pawn, bring the king over. The rook is coming into the action. I trade off the rooks. The knight comes to then one attack my queen, which prevents I can't just move the queen to safety. I have to go ahead and, defend, which is what I do. Queen comes down to check me in with the king. And we keep playing this back and forth game, and he brings the rook in to finally deliver the killing blow. Go rook to a2. I'm just fighting to stay alive, but the rook's coming in, and things are not looking good. I think I have this nice little pin here, which helps, but I'm still just slightly out of time because after the pawn comes, I can't do anything because the pawns are coming. They're connected past pawns, and he's able to take my queen. I take there, get a mate. So I thought I was doing pretty good with my defensive resources, but he crushed me. So I'm going in on the final round, and I'm looking to get hopefully second place. If I win here, I have a shot at tying for second. I'd be very ecstatic with that result. And this is how I did in the final game. I'm starting off as black, my opponent's white, and he goes e4. I go into my Caro-Kann setup, and he brings out this weird queen to f3 line, which I don't see very often with the Caro-Kann. So I look to trade off the queens. He refuses to trade off the queens. I have to bring it back because I was thinking that there was too much infiltration issues there. What I should have done instead is I should have gone queen to e4 check. If he comes here, then you obviously take there. But if he doesn't do that, knight h6 is also pretty good for black. I obviously didn't see that. What I did instead was I just went back, looking to prevent any shenanigans going there. I thought that was solid. It's an inaccuracy, gives white back the advantage. And this bishop ended up being like the bane of my existence later on. So I'm looking to get my bishop out here in fianchetto because the queen is looking at this, so I can't develop this bishop off the square. So he starts pushing h4, and then I'm like, oh, I'll just go and attack the queen. Queen comes back, and then I go and attack the queen here. Queen has to retreat again. I develop the knights, he developed his knights, and then I go to attack the bishop. One, just trying to get some space that I can get this bishop out. I then go to b7, looking to push this later on, and he goes to attack my bishop. I take here, queen takes, and I go attack the queen again. Queen retreats, and now I set up a little bishop battery here, maybe looking to castle queen side. He goes bishop to e3, and I go to attack the knight. He takes there, and I take here, looking to maybe attack hit and the hit here later on. A very even game so far. So he goes to attack my rook, and this is where things kind of like get weird in my position. I bring the rook out here. Obviously, I don't want to get attacked. And I look to trade off this bishop, which is what he does. And I take with the queen. What I should have done instead was I should have taken with the king. I would have been better, but instead I took with the queen here, which they say it's a mistake, but the engine really only has it at like point worse. So I didn't think it was that much of a mistake. He goes queen to e3. I go rook to h8. What I should have done instead here is I should have just gone d4. And if queen takes d4, you then go rook to d8, and then if he takes here, then you go queen to b4 check. So wild line, king to e2, and then bishop takes f3, and then based on this, it just gets wild. It just gets really wild really fast. So I didn't see that though. I go rook to h8 instead, looking to protect this pawn. The pawn comes over here to attack on b5. I just push it forward, and because I'm like, oh, maybe I can get this out, but the bishop still kind of sucks. This light square bishop was just the bane of my existence. I didn't know how to get it out. He goes queen e4, and then I'm like, oh, I'll move this bishop out here to look at something maybe, which is a blunder. But then he blunders right back, trying to attack my rook here. I go f6. Queen comes back to g6, and then I push here. What I should have done instead was bring the king over here to d2, or on f7 to protect the pawns there. He brings his king out, I bring the rook, and now he's exiting this. And so this is something that I was kind of worried about. I need to unpin my king, so I bring it over here to f7, queen to f4, and he's hitting this pawn again, so I bring the g7. He goes g4, and that's a blunder. But then I blunder right back with queen to c7, looking to trade off the queens. Unfortunately for me, what I should have done instead is go e5. If I went e5, oh man, I'm winning. Unfortunately, I went for the queen trade. It was time crunch, and so he takes, I take, he takes there, and then I look to protect here, completely dropping my bishop. I mean, I'm at this point I have like 15 seconds left on my clock, and I like to, just get my rooks behind the pawns and protect, but I have too many weaknesses, and he easily wins from here. We go all the way to the checkmate. I lose. And I finished the tournament 2-2. I beat the people I should have beaten. I lost to the people I should have lost to, which isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. I'm just gonna look to come back next week with the championships here in Salt Lake. If you wanna see that video will be here, and I'll see you next time.